Hi, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about first-time buyers and the 7 essential things that you need to do before you start house hunting. Now, I know when you're a first-time buyer, it's very exciting. You want to go out, you want to start viewing properties, you want to look online, you want to start thinking about where you're going to move to, what you're going to buy, how you're going to do it. But before you start on that process, before you go out and view any properties and start looking online, you really need to work out exactly how much you can afford to pay and get everything lined up so that when you do start going out and viewing properties, then you're doing it in the full knowledge that you're a ready to strike buyer. The market at the moment is hot. It is difficult to buy a property. You need to make sure you can put your best foot forward, that you can actually put an offer in that you can deliver upon. And there are 7 things that you need to do before you can do that. And please watch through to the end of the video, because number 7 is the absolute critical thing that everybody who's thinking about making their first time purchase has to do. So let's get started. So the very first thing that you need to do is work out exactly what your earnings are. Now that might sound quite simple, and maybe for some of you it is. If you've only got one source of income, if you've got one job, then maybe you can pull together that information quite quickly. But even if you're in that situation, you'll still need to get all of your paperwork together for the last 3 years. Now that sounds a lot, but some lenders will want to know all of your earnings for the last 3 years. So you'll need to get your paperwork. So either that is your annual tax return, or you may get a report that says exactly how much you've earned in each particular year, either from your employer or from your tax office. However, if you've got a slightly more complicated form of income, so maybe you've got more than one source of income, so in addition to your day job, maybe you're earning money from other sources, you've got a second job, or you're earning money from things like YouTube or selling things online or various other areas, or maybe you're even self-employed. Now, if you're in those situations, then you need to track down all of that income and put it all together for the last 3 years and work out exactly how much you've been earning in each of those years. So include overtime and bonuses and one-off payments that you've received. You need to put as much information as you can to get that number as high as possible so that you can get the best possible deal when you start talking to mortgage providers. And if you're making a joint application, if you're buying this with somebody else, either your partner or your friend or whoever it might be, then they need to get all of that information as well. So you'll need both your information and your partner's information for the last 3 years. Every single piece of income, you need to be able to document that and show exactly how much you've earned, because that's how you're going to be able to get a bigger mortgage to be able to buy the property. So that can be quite time consuming. So start that now. Go and look up the documentation, find all those pieces of paper, work out exactly how much the earnings has been in every one of the last 3 years, and then you're in a position to start thinking about your application. So the second thing that you need to pull together is all of your outgoings. When you're making a mortgage application, the mortgage provider is going to want to work out the affordability, whether or not you can afford to make the payments. And in order to do that, they will ask you a lot of questions about your outgoings. So they will need to go through every single thing that you spend money on each month. So you might think that's quite simple, but they will want you to tell them how much you're spending on food and groceries, how much you're spending on fuel, whether you're spending money on other items, maybe childcare or travel or lots of different things. You think about all of the things that you spend money on, entertainment, holidays, those sort of things. And they want to know each year, how much do you spend on each of those items, so they can work it backwards and work out exactly how much you spend each month to be able to work out your disposable income. Because they need to know that whatever you're being paid, after you've paid out all of the things that you pay every month, how much is left, and is that enough to cover the mortgage payments and the interest on that mortgage application. So that can take some time because you'll need to work out all of your outgoings. So have a look at your bank accounts, download some of your statements, start going through your credit card statements, working out exactly what you're spending money on. It's a good exercise anyway, because it will help you to understand exactly what you're spending money on, and maybe you can start cutting back on some of the things. If you're not quite sure where all your money's going, it's a good way of having a look at that. But you'll need it when you come to make the application, because they will ask you, after they've asked you all your income details, they'll then go on and ask you for all of your outgoings. So you'll need to have that information ready. So the third thing that you need to do, and this is really an important one, so this is probably something you haven't done before, is find out what your credit score is. Now, that might not mean anything to you, what your credit score is, but these days with mortgage applications and the way lenders work, they want to know how good your credit rating is. So credit agencies keep your data on file. So every time you do something that involves credit, whether it's a credit card, if you're applying for a mobile phone, and so you've got a contract, which is technically a loan, whether you're paying utility bills, whether you're doing anything that involves electronic transactions in your name on a regular basis, then the database starts building up and a credit profile is built upon you. And what's known as a credit score is applied to you as an individual. And anytime you have a problem with a payment, so it might be something very simple. It might be that you make a regular payment for your mobile phone provider each month, and maybe you changed your bank account, or something happened with your credit card, or you blocked your card because you lost it, and maybe you missed a payment. That missed payment will go on your credit record as a black mark, as a negative, and that will reduce your credit score. And every time something like that happens, it brings your score down further. And credit agencies will keep all this on file. And when you come to make a mortgage application, the mortgage company will check your credit rating. And if your rating is lower than their minimum level, then you can get refused on your application, even if it looks like you can afford to make the payments and that you're a good credit. If the credit rating agency is saying you've got a bad score, then that can go against you. Go online, type in, I'm looking for my credit score, my credit rating. You'll find that there's a number of different places you can have a look at that, and you'll be able to get it for free. So either it's available for free. So in the UK, you can look at Experian. Go on Experian, they offer you the ability to find your credit score for free. Or if not, you'll be able to subscribe on a 7 or 14-day free trial. So what you can do is sign up to a credit rating agency, put your details in, obtain your credit score, and then you can cancel the application and not make any more payments, and therefore it won't cost you anything. So you can do it for free by signing up for a free trial. So the credit score will give you a number, but it will have lots of information after that. So it will have all of the different records. So it might be all the credit cards you've ever had, any loans that you've had, mobile phones, any utility bills, those sort of things will all be on there. And it will show if you've got any black marks, if you've got any negative ratings. You can contact the credit score agency and ask for that record to be amended. So that will improve your rating. So there's things you can do if you contact the credit rating agency to improve your score. But most importantly, you need to know what your score is before you put a mortgage application in. So go get your credit rating, find it online, download the report, have a look at it. If it's a good score, and if it's saying that your credit rating's good, then fine, you're happy to continue. If you've got some black marks or some negative issues on there, then you need to find out what's caused them and then apply to get them removed from your record to improve your credit score, which will then improve your chances of getting your mortgage approved. Okay, so the fourth thing that we need to do is work out exactly how much you can borrow. So we've already worked out what your income is, and we've worked out what your outgoings are. We've touched on the credit score. So now it's time to start working out exactly how much people are prepared to lend you. So there's a number of ways of doing this. You can approach companies directly. So you can look up a bank or a loan provider, go on their website and type in your details, put all of your income and outgoings, and it will tell you, broadly speaking, how much you can borrow. or you can go through an online comparison website. And I think that's probably the best starting point, because if you go to a comparison website, they will generally be looking at maybe 50 or 100 different mortgage providers, and then they will find the best deal for you. So it's a quicker way of going through the process. You get to see more of the market and you'll get the best deals. So go onto a comparison website, or you can go onto a broker website. Now, brokers sometimes have special deals that are not available anywhere else. So it's worth looking into that option. So I would recommend doing the comparison website and also a broker website and see what the best deals coming out are. And the two things that you're looking for really is how much can I borrow and what sort of rates of interest are applying to those loans. So number 5 on the list, the next thing to look at is the costs of a transaction. So now that you know how much you can afford to pay for a property, so you've got your number, you know exactly what your maximum budget is, you also then need to factor in any costs associated with that. And there are some costs that everybody has to pay. The first of those is legal costs. When you buy a property, you'll need to employ a solicitor, a lawyer, to register all of the documentation in your name to make sure that that property gets registered in your name, that everything that's done legally, and that the person you're buying it from owns the property. There's no issues with regards to the title or covenants or anything else that's complicated along with that process. So they're the experts. You'll need to pay them. If you're lucky, you might be able to find a mortgage deal where they pay for your legal costs. You might, but it's not guaranteed. So you should have a look at what the legal costs are and factor that into your numbers, because you will have to pay that. And you won't be able to add that to your loan. You will have to pay it from your own resources. So that needs to be taken into account. In addition to that, taxes need to be taken into account. So in the UK here, we've got stamp duty. So at the moment, there's some holidays on stamp duty, but that won't last forever. And also, if you're paying a bigger amount for a property, then they don't apply those holidays. So you need to work out how much tax you're going to have to pay when you buy the property. And it can be local taxes, stamp duties, a variety of taxes depending on which country and what jurisdiction you're in. But you will have to pay for that tax yourself. So you need to make sure that out of your budget, you've set aside enough money to pay for the tax as well as the legal fees. And the third item in terms of costs that you need to factor in is any work that you want to do to that property once you've bought it. So if your dream is to install a brand new kitchen or a brand new bathroom or something, then you need to work out how much that's going to cost and how you're going to pay for it. And if you need to be able to pay for that yourself, then you need to set that amount aside out of your budget to be able to do that after you've made the purchase. So work out all the costs associated with your purchase, deduct that from your budget, and then we're getting to the number that you can afford to pay for that property. Number 6 on the list, the sixth thing to do is to find the best deal. So when you're looking at all of those different mortgage providers through the brokers and comparison websites, not only are you looking at how much you can borrow, but you're looking at what the terms of that deal are. So you need to decide on what's important for you. First time buyers, I would recommend going for a fixed rate deal, because you then know that that interest is fixed for the period that you've agreed to fix it for. So that could be 2 years, that could be 5 years, it could be 10 years, it could even be 30 years. You can fix it for however long you think is appropriate. And at the moment, rates are extremely low, really good time to be fixing rates. So it might make sense to fix it for a longer period, but have a look at the difference. What you might find is that the 2-year fix is a lot lower than the 5-year fix, because we know that interest rates are not forecast to move for the next 18 months to 2 years, but they might start going up. So when you fix a rate for 5 years, the mortgage provider has factored in a potential rise in rates after year 2 or 3. So those rates will tend to be higher than the short-term rates. So you need to decide what's important to you. If you're expecting your income to rise over the next few years, then maybe you go for a shorter term deal, fix it while your income's lower, and then once that fixed term deal finishes, you'll be able to afford it because you'll be earning more in the future. But work out yourself what's important to you, fixed rate deal, how long. So some of the deals you have to pay an arrangement fee for, and you need to work out exactly what's the best deal for you. And you might find a deal that has no fee, that's got a higher interest rate, or one that has a fee but a lower rate. So you need to work out exactly what deal suits you best and which one you're going to go for. And then you're starting to hone in on exactly what it is you want to do. Okay, so here we are at number 7, the 7th thing that you have to do before you start looking at houses, before you go out there and start kicking the tires and having a look round at what you can buy. And this is absolutely critical. And if you do this, it will put you in a very strong position and enable you to strike quickly and make that purchase. And the key thing that you need to do once you've done everything else we've talked about here is apply for the mortgage and get an approval in principle. And an approval in principle is basically an approval for your loan subject to you finding the right property. So you can get all of your paperwork, you know exactly how much you earn, you know what your outgoings are, you know what deal you want from what we just discussed. Make the application, put the application in. It can take some time, so it can take 4, 6, 8 weeks before you'll get a decision. It's quite a long process. What you don't want to do is be agreeing to buy a house and then start thinking about that process, because it will take too long and people will get frustrated with the delay and you may lose that property. So do it now, put the application in. It might take 2 months, but once you've got that approval, you know that you can move very, very quickly. If there's a problem with the approval, you've got time, because you're doing this ahead of falling in love with the property and deciding it's the one that you want. So put the application in, go through all of the questions, all of the issues, all the documentation that they're going to ask you for. They might want evidence of your earnings and various other things. Do all of that, get it approved, get it in writing, get an approval in writing from your mortgage provider. And then when you start looking for houses, then when you're talking to agents about making an offer, you can tell them, I have an approval in principle. I'm a first-time buyer. I'm not in a chain. I don't have to worry about selling a property. I can move really quickly. And here is my approval in principle to prove that. And I'm ready to make a purchase and move into that property as soon as possible. That puts you in a very, very strong position. That really differentiates you from a lot of other buyers. It will give you maximum advantage when trying to make a bid for that house. If you're a seller, if you're looking to sell your property and you've got 2 bidders, one of whom has an approval in principle and is ready to go, and the other one who hasn't started the process yet, you will always go for the one with approval in principle, because there's no risk in that. They've got their mortgage approved, they're ready to go, they want to make the purchase. They're the ones that you will choose every time as a seller. So that's the position that you want to be in as a first-time buyer. So that is the golden rule here. Get your approval in principle, get approved, be ready to go, and then you can start on all the fun stuff. So they're the 7 things you need to do. Once you've done all of those, get yourself online, start looking for some properties, have a look in all the areas you're wanting to buy, see what you can afford. Then you can book in some viewings, go out, have a little look around, see how those properties feel, how they sit in their environment, all that fun stuff. Really great. But do all the boring paperwork now before you start on that process. Hopefully that's been useful. Hopefully that's given you an idea as to what it is you need to start doing immediately. If you've liked what I've said, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe, and I will see you again soon. Thank you.